Sometimes, the moments that define a life arrive not with a thunderclap, but in a quiet flurry of seconds. For 16-year-old Marcus Thompson, that moment lasted exactly 45 seconds. That was the length of a single, frantic timeout. 45 seconds to spot the imperceptible tremor in the hands of a living legend. 45 seconds to grab a specific, unmarked bottle from a refrigerated storeroom. 45 seconds to rush that drink to Michael Jordan during a pivotal Chicago Bulls game when the eyes of the world saw God resting and only Marcus saw a man in trouble. 45 seconds was all it took to help the greatest basketball player of all time. 45 seconds was all it took to lose his dream job. But what Marcus didn't know, what no one in the roaring arena or watching at home could possibly comprehend, was that his split-second decision, an act of pure, unthinking empathy, would unravel a secret that stretched far beyond the polished hardwood of the court. It was a secret that would not only change his own life, but would send ripples through the entire foundation of the NBA. Sometimes, getting fired isn't the end of the story. Sometimes, it's just the beginning. Marcus Thompson's hands trembled as he tied the knot on his brand-new work apron. The crisp, black uniform, emblazoned with the iconic Red Bulls logo, felt heavier than fabric. It felt like a mantle of responsibility, a superhero cape for a kid from the South Side. He smoothed it down for the 10th time, the starchy material crinkling under his nervous fingers. He still couldn't quite believe he was standing here, in the cavernous, echoing halls of the United Center, the madhouse on Madison, where his heroes battled every week. "You're going to do great, baby," his mom, Elena, said, her voice a warm, steady anchor in his sea of nerves. She reached out and straightened his name tag, her touch gentle. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, a permanent testament to her back-to-back night shifts at the hospital. But her smile was as radiant as ever. "Just remember the family rules. Be polite, work harder than everyone else, and always show up 15 minutes early." "I know, Mom," Marcus finished, a grin finally breaking through his anxiety. He'd heard those words 1,000 times, a familiar liturgy for a life that demanded resilience. But today, they felt different. They weren't just Mom's advice. They were the sacred commandments for protecting his dream job. At 16, Marcus was the youngest hire on the concession staff for the entire season. The thought sent a fresh wave of butterflies fluttering in his stomach, a chaotic dance of excitement and fear. He took a deep breath, pushing the nervousness down. This job meant everything. It was more than just proximity to his idols. It was a lifeline. With his mom's nursing salary stretched to its breaking point by rent, utilities, and the ever-increasing cost of his little sister Sarah's asthma medication, they needed this. Every dollar he earned was a small brick in the wall they were building against the constant flood of bills. The bus ride to the arena felt surreal, like floating on a cloud of diesel fumes and hope. Marcus pressed his forehead against the cool glass of the window, watching the familiar Chicago streets blur past. He remembered all those nights huddled around their small, flickering TV, the volume turned low, watching Michael Jordan defy gravity, dreaming of what it would be like to feel the energy of the arena firsthand. Now, he wouldn't just be in the building, he would be a part of it. "You're early. Good." Mr. Peterson, the concession supervisor, barely looked up from his clipboard as Marcus walked into the bustling prep area. He was a tall, wiry man with salt and pepper hair and glasses that perpetually sat on the tip of his nose, as if they, too, were cautiously observing the world. "First day jitters, Thompson?" "No, sir," Marcus said quickly, perhaps too quickly. Mr. Peterson's eyebrow arched over the rim of his glasses. Mr. Peterson led him through the labyrinthine kitchen, a symphony of sizzling grills, popping corn, and shouting voices. "Let's go over the 3 cardinal rules one more time," he said, his tone leaving no room for error. "Rule number 1? Always wash hands before handling any food or beverages, and then wash them again," Marcus recited. He'd memorized the employee handbook, treating it like a sacred text. "Rule number 2? Keep your station clean, organized, and fully stocked at all times. And the most important rule of all?" Mr. Peterson stopped, turning to face him fully. Marcus stood a little straighter, his voice clear. Every customer gets the exact same treatment. No exceptions for anyone. Even celebrities, Mr. Peterson corrected, his gaze sharp. Especially celebrities. We get Bulls players, movie stars, politicians, billionaires in here. To you, they're all just customers. No special treatment. No asking for autographs. No pictures. You break that rule, you're out. No second chances. Understood? Yes, sir, understood. The morning was a whirlwind of training. Marcus learned the intricate dance of the soda machine, the precise ratio of syrup to carbonation for the special sports drinks, and the art of keeping the ice bins perpetually full. His fellow workers were a blur of faces, but a woman named Maria, who had been running her snack counter with practiced ease for 5 years, took him under her wing. She showed him the shortcut show to tell when the popcorn was perfectly done by sound alone, how to stack the cups in a way that defied gravity. "You're a quick study, kid," she said with a warm smile. "Just wait until game night. That's when the real chaos begins." During his lunch break, Marcus sat in the cramped employee room, eating the turkey sandwich his mom had packed. He pulled out his phone and saw a text from his sister. "Did you see MJ yet?" "Take a picture." He smiled, typing back. "Not allowed, remember? But my station has a perfect view of the court." The afternoon shift brought a steady stream of people taking arena tours. Marcus served each one with a wide, genuine smile, channeling the same patient kindness his mom showed her patients at the hospital. Each "thank you" and "have a great day" felt like a small victory, a step closer to his first paycheck. He'd already mentally allocated it, half to his mom for the bills, the other half saved for Sarah's next inhaler refill. At closing time, Mr. Peterson did a final inspection of Marcus's station. He ran a finger along the countertop, checked the cash drawer, and peered into the ice bin. "Not bad, Thompson," he grunted, making a few notes on his clipboard. "Everything's clean. Money's counted correctly. You follow instructions. That's good. Too many young people these days think rules don't apply to them." "Thank you, sir," Marcus beamed, a wave of pride washing over him. "I won't let you down." The bus ride home was different from the morning commute. His feet throbbed from standing for 8 hours, and his arms ached from hauling bags of ice. But his heart felt impossibly light. He'd done it. First day, no mistakes. His mom was already home, helping Sarah with her homework at their small kitchen table. The comforting aroma of chicken soup filled their apartment, a welcome shield against the chilly Chicago air. "There's my working man." Elena pulled him into a tight hug. "How was it?" Marcus collapsed into a chair, the exhaustion hitting him all at once, but he couldn't stop smiling. "It was amazing. I learned everything. Mr. Peterson said I did a good job. And Mom, from my station, I can see the whole court. The whole court." "Breathe, honey," his mom laughed, placing a steaming bowl of soup in front of him. Sarah bounced in her seat, her eyes wide with excitement. "Did you see any players? Was Michael there? What about Scottie Pippen?" "No players today, Squirt," Marcus said, slurping his soup. "But just wait. In 3 days, the Bulls play the Knicks. The whole city will be watching." He could already imagine it. The arena packed to the rafters, the roar of the crowd, the electric energy that only a classic rivalry could generate. Later that night, as Marcus was getting ready for bed, he heard a soft coughing from the kitchen. He peeked out his door and saw his mom at the table, surrounded by a sea of bills. The rhythmic click of her calculator was a somber drumbeat in the quiet apartment. She looked tired, her shoulders slumped under a weight that wasn't just physical. Marcus closed his door quietly. Tomorrow, he would get up early. He would work harder than anyone else. He would make his mom proud. He would help with those bills. This wasn't just a cool job anymore. It was a chance to be the man of the house, to ease the burden on his mother's weary shoulders. As he drifted off to sleep, the Bulls logo on his new uniform hanging neatly on his closet door seemed to catch the moonlight. His dream job was just the beginning. He could feel it in his bones. Something big was coming. He just didn't know how big, or how profoundly his life was about to change. 3 days passed in a blur of school, homework, and anticipation. When Marcus arrived for his first official game night, the United Center was a living, breathing entity, humming with a palpable electricity. Thousands of fans, a sea of red and black, streamed through the doors, their excited chatter echoing through the concourse. The smell of popcorn and grilled onions was thicker, more intense, a fragrant promise of the drama to come. "Remember, tonight's going to be a madhouse," Maria warned, her hands a blur as she helped Marcus stock his station with cups and napkins. "Just breathe, focus, and take it one customer at a time. You got this." Mr. Peterson was a whirlwind of motion, striding from station to station, his voice cutting through the din with sharp reminders. "Thompson, what's the cardinal rule?" "No special treatment, sir," Marcus replied, the words now an automatic reflex. "Everyone's just a customer." The game against the New York Knicks wasn't just another regular season matchup. It was a battle steeped in history, a rivalry that defined an era of basketball. The Bulls needed this win to maintain their top spot in the conference, and the city of Chicago was holding its collective breath. Marcus could feel the tension in the air as tip-off approached, a static charge that made the hairs on his arms stand up. His first rush of customers was a tidal wave of red jerseys and booming voices. Marcus's hands flew over the register, scooping ice, pouring drinks, his training taking over. Everything flowed. A woman in a Jordan jersey beamed when he remembered to add extra lemon to her soda. A little boy's eyes went wide with delight when Marcus carefully balanced his box of popcorn so it wouldn't spill. During a momentary lull, Marcus risked a glance at the court. The players were titans, larger than life, their sneakers squeaking a rhythmic protest on the polished floor. Michael Jordan moved with a fluid, predatory grace, making impossible, acrobatic shots look routine. Marcus had watched hundreds of his games on their tiny TV, but being here, feeling the roar of the crowd vibrate through the soles of his feet, was something else entirely. It was magic. "Focus, Thompson," Mr. Peterson's voice, sharp as a whistle, snapped him back to reality. Less stargazing, more serving. The game remained brutally close through 3 quarters. Every time the Bulls scored, the arena erupted, and the concession lines swelled with celebrating fans. Marcus's feet ached. His back was stiff, but he didn't care. He was a part of it, a small cog in the massive, roaring machine of the NBA. Then came the timeout that would alter the trajectory of his life. Marcus was on a quick, mandated break, restocking the small fridge in the back with the special, team-issued drinks. Suddenly, he heard the collective gasp of 20-0 people. He peeked out at the giant jumbotron suspended above the court. The cameras were zoomed in on Michael Jordan, who looked shaky and disoriented as he sat on the bench. The greatest player in the world, the man who played through the flu, through injuries, through anything, looked pale and was breathing heavily. There was something in his eyes, a flicker of vulnerability that the cameras couldn't fully capture, but Marcus saw it. Without a single conscious thought, Marcus's hand shot out and grabbed one of the special electrolyte drinks he had just sorted. These weren't the generic sports drinks sold to the public. They were kept separate, their contents a closely guarded team secret. His heart hammered against his ribs as he looked from the struggling figure on the court to the cool, plastic bottle in his hand. Mr. Peterson's voice echoed in his mind, a cold, unyielding mantra. No special treatment. Break that rule and you're out. But a louder voice, one that sounded remarkably like his mother's, whispered a different truth. Sometimes, doing the right thing means taking a risk. Marcus clutched the bottle and ran. He ducked past the first security checkpoint, his red and black uniform a temporary passport. But as he neared the sacred ground of the Bulls bench, a security guard with shoulders as wide as a doorway stepped into his path, a human wall. "Whoa, kid, you can't be here," the guard said, his voice a low rumble. "But Marcus held up the drink, his words catching in his throat. The timeout buzzer was about to sound. Jordan still looked wrong. That's when it happened. Michael Jordan himself, the focus of a million prayers and a city's hopes, looked over. His gaze cut through the chaos, past the coaches and trainers, and landed on Marcus. He saw the boy, the uniform, the drink. With a slight, almost imperceptible nod, he waved him through. "Let him come," Jordan called out, his voice raspy but clear. The guard stepped aside, his expression a mixture of confusion and surprise. Marcus rushed forward, his hands shaking so badly he was afraid he'd drop the bottle. He handed the drink to Michael Jordan. For a fraction of a second, their eyes met. Jordan gave him a nod, a silent acknowledgement that conveyed more than words ever could. The crowd, seeing the exchange on the Jumbotron, erupted in a confused but heartwarming cheer. It was a perfect TV moment, a young, earnest worker helping his hero. Some fans even snapped pictures with their phones. But as Marcus turned to head back to his station, his heart plummeted into his shoes. There, by the entrance to the tunnel, stood Mr. Peterson. His arms were crossed over his chest, his face as dark and ominous as a storm cloud rolling in over Lake Michigan. And Marcus knew, with a sickening, absolute certainty, that his dream job was over. The rest of the game was a muted, distant roar. The Bulls won on a last-second fadeaway jumper by Jordan, who looked completely revitalized. The United Center exploded in a joyous, deafening celebration, but Marcus barely heard it. He worked on autopilot, cleaning his station, his mind replaying the moment with Mr. Peterson over and over. As the last of the fans filed out and the cleanup crew began their work, Maria came over, her face etched with a sad sympathy. She had seen it all. "Mr. Peterson wants to see you first thing tomorrow morning," she said softly. "For what it's worth, kid, I think you did the right thing." Marcus just nodded, his throat too tight to speak. On the long, lonely bus ride home, he watched the city lights blur through his tears. How was he going to tell his mom? What about Sarah's medicine? All because he broke the one rule he was never supposed to break. He didn't regret helping Jordan. He couldn't. But as he lay in bed that night, the consequences of his actions felt like a crushing weight. He had no idea that while he was dreading his meeting with Mr. Peterson, a conversation was already happening in the highest echelons of the Chicago Bulls organization. His simple, impulsive act of kindness had set off a chain reaction, a series of events that would change not just his life, but the lives of everyone around him. Marcus arrived at the United Center 30 minutes early the next morning, the familiar red and black uniform feeling alien on his skin. The colossal building, usually so full of life and energy, was eerily quiet. His footsteps echoed on the polished concrete floors, a lonely sound in the cavernous space. His mom had been awake when he left, as if her maternal sixth sense had already alerted her that something was wrong. "Whatever happens, I am so proud of you," she'd said, hugging him tightly. "You have always had a good heart, just like your father." Now sitting on the hard plastic chair outside Mr. Peterson's office, Marcus wished he could feel the warmth of that hug again. The office door opened with a soft creak. "Come in, Thompson." Mr. Peterson sat behind his metal desk, looking older and more tired than Marcus had ever seen him. A copy of the employee handbook lay open on the desk, its pages dog-eared and worn. On his computer monitor, paused on a single frame, was a video of Marcus running towards the Bulls bench, the drink clutched in his hand. "Do you know why you're here?" Mr. Peterson asked, his voice flat. Marcus sat up straight, his hands clenched in his lap. If he was going down, he would go down with dignity. "Yes, sir. I broke the celebrity rule. I left my station without permission and approached a player. Not just a player. You went right up to Michael Jordan himself." Mr. Peterson said, taking off his glasses and rubbing the bridge of his nose. "The video is all over social media. Bulls Kid is trending. People are calling you a hero." Marcus remained silent. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt sick. "But here's the thing about heroes, Thompson," Mr. Peterson continued, his voice heavy. "They often break rules. And in an arena this size, with this many people, rules are what keep everyone safe. Rules are what keep things fair." He put his glasses back on, his gaze sharp and direct. "What if every one of our 200 employees decided to run up to the players? What if everyone thought their reason was special enough to break protocol? It would be chaos." "I understand, sir." Marcus's voice came out as a whisper. "I believe you do. And that's what makes this so difficult." Mr. Peterson picked up a single sheet of paper from his desk. It was a termination form. I have to let you go, Marcus. Effective immediately. Even though he had been expecting it, the words were a physical blow, knocking the air from his lungs. Marcus blinked hard, fighting back the hot sting of tears. Turn in your uniform before you leave. Security will escort you out. Mr. Peterson's voice softened almost imperceptibly. For what it's worth, I wish things could be different. As Marcus stood on shaky legs and reached for the door, Mr. Peterson spoke one last time. Thompson, sometimes life has a funny way of working out. Don't you forget that. Outside the arena, Marcus changed into his regular clothes in the bathroom of a nearby coffee shop. His phone buzzed incessantly with messages. Sarah, asking why he was home so early. Maria, saying how sorry she was. Even a few messages from news reporters, wanting to talk about the video. He ignored them all, taking the long way home, walking for miles instead of taking the bus. The Bulls uniform, folded neatly in his backpack, felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. His mom was waiting for him when he walked through the door. One look at his face told her everything she needed to know. Oh, baby. She wrapped him in a fierce hug, and this time, Marcus let the tears come, great shuddering sobs of failure and fear. I'm so sorry, Mom, he whispered into her shoulder. I know we needed that job, but Michael, something wasn't right. I had to help him. Listen to me, his mom said, holding his face in her hands. Jobs come and go, but being the kind of person who helps someone when they're in need, that is worth more than any paycheck in the world. Later that afternoon, while his mom was on the phone trying to pick up extra nursing shifts, Marcus finally looked at his phone. The video had millions of views. The comments were a battlefield. Some people hailed him as a hero and demanded the Bulls rehire him. Others defended the arena, arguing that rules were rules for a reason, but none of them knew the whole story. None of them had seen the subtle tremor in Jordan's hands or the unfocused look in his eyes. None of them knew about the special drinks in the back fridge, or why Marcus had instinctively chosen that specific one. As the sun set, painting the Chicago skyline in hues of orange and purple, Marcus wondered if he'd ever work in sports again. He wondered how they would afford Sarah's medicine next month. He wondered if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He had no way of knowing that, at that very moment, in a high-rise office overlooking the city, a series of urgent phone calls and emails were flying back and forth. A conversation was happening that would turn his entire world upside down, all because of one drink, one decision, and one simple, impulsive act of kindness. By morning, the story had exploded. Every sports channel, from ESPN to local news, was playing the clip on a loop. The young worker in the Bulls uniform rushing to Michael Jordan's aid, the security guard stepping aside. The crowd's confused cheer. But now, the narrative had a second act, the firing. Your phone is blowing up, Sarah said at breakfast, her eyes wide as she scrolled through her own social media feed. People are really mad you got fired. Justice for Marcus is trending. His mom turned off the TV, where two sports commentators were heatedly debating whether the United Center's management had been too harsh. Maybe we should unplug for a while, she suggested, her gaze soft as she watched Marcus listlessly push his cereal around his bowl. Give this all time to calm down. But the world had no intention of calming down. The story had tapped into a universal frustration, the feeling of being punished for doing the right thing. People were sharing their own stories of getting fired for trying to help. A few former arena workers posted about Mr. Peterson's legendary strictness. Marcus's phone buzzed relentlessly. Reporters from major outlets were sliding into his DMs. Can we get your side of the story? What did you see that made you act? How do you feel about the Bulls organization firing you for helping their star player? He ignored them all. What could he possibly say? That he'd seen a flicker of weakness in the eyes of an icon? That he'd acted on a gut feeling he couldn't explain? It would only make things worse. You should talk to someone, Maria texted him. People are on your side. Even some of the players are posting about it. He checked, and sure enough, Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman had both shared the video with supportive captions. But Michael Jordan himself had remained publicly silent. Marcus wondered if the basketball star even remembered the moment, or if it had just been another brief interaction in a life full of them. That afternoon, a local news van parked across the street from their apartment building. His mom drew the curtains, her lips pressed into a thin, determined line. "We're ordering pizza," she announced, a forced cheerfulness in her voice. "My treat." They ate in the living room, the TV off, trying to pretend it was just another normal evening. But the quiet was filled with unspoken anxieties. "Look," Sarah suddenly said, pointing at her phone. "Someone started a GoFundMe for you." Marcus's stomach twisted into a knot. He looked over her shoulder and saw the page. "Help the kid who helped MJ." It had already raised several $1,000s from anonymous donors. "No," he said, his voice firm. "I don't want charity. I just want—" He stopped, unsure how to finish the sentence. A job? His old life back? For everyone to just forget his name? His mom pulled him into a side hug, her arm a comforting weight around his shoulders. "I know, baby. I know." That night, unable to sleep, Marcus scrolled through the thousands of comments on the video. Most were supportive, calling him brave and kind. But a vocal minority defended the arena, arguing that rules existed for a reason. A few even suggested the whole thing had been a publicity stunt. None of them knew the truth. None of them understood the certainty he had felt in that moment, the absolute conviction that he had to act. A new message popped up on his phone from an unknown number. He almost deleted it, assuming it was another reporter, but something made him open it. "Thank you for caring enough to act." Not everyone would have noticed, and even fewer would have done something about it. "Stay ready. Good things are coming." The message was unsigned. Marcus read it 10 times, his heart pounding. It felt different from the other messages, more personal, more knowing. It felt like it came from someone who knew the piece of the story that was still missing. He fell asleep with his phone in his hand, the cryptic message glowing on the screen. He didn't know it yet, but the tide was already turning. The real story, the one that mattered, hadn't even started yet. 2 agonizing weeks crawled by. The viral fame, once a roaring bonfire, had dwindled to smoldering embers, but the smoke still clung to him. Marcus couldn't walk into a grocery store without someone whispering, "Hey, that's the Bulls kid." His moment of heroism had branded him unemployable. "Thompson?" The manager at the local hardware store said, glancing from his job application to his face. "Wait a minute, aren't you the kid from the United Center? The one who got fired?" "Yes, sir," Marcus admitted, his shoulders slumping. "But I'm a hard worker, and "Sorry, kid, can't risk it," the manager said, already turning away. "What if a celebrity comes in here and you decide to break protocol again? Can't have that." It was the same story everywhere. The movie theater, the coffee shop, the local pizza place. As soon as they recognized him, the interview was over. His 15 minutes of fame had become a life sentence of suspicion. At home, the walls felt like they were closing in. A cold snap had settled over Chicago, aggravating Sarah's asthma. Her rescue inhaler was dangerously low. His mom was working so many double shifts at the hospital that Marcus barely saw her anymore. When she was home, she'd fall asleep on the couch, still in her scrubs. The exhaustion etched so deeply on her face it looked permanent. The Bulls had another home game that night. Marcus watched it on their tiny TV, the sound muted. He couldn't bear to hear the roar of the crowd. His old uniform was stuffed in the back of his closet, but he could still feel its phantom weight. The camera panned over his old concession stand, where a new kid was serving drinks and popcorn. "That could have been you," a small, cruel voice whispered in his head, "if you had just followed the rules." His phone buzzed. It was a text from Maria. She'd been his one consistent link to his old life, sending him updates and words of encouragement. But this message was different. "You need to see this. MJ collapsed during practice today. They're saying it might be related to that timeout in your game. Reporters are asking questions again." Marcus's heart seized. He frantically flipped to the sports news channel, but they were just showing highlights. He searched online and found a few frantic tweets about Michael Jordan leaving practice early, surrounded by medical staff, but no official report. Can we order pizza? Sarah asked, wandering into the room, her breathing shallow and wheezy. Mom left some money. Let's have soup, Marcus said, his mind racing. They needed to save every single dollar. I'll make Mom's special recipe. While the soup simmered, Marcus checked his email for the 100th time. Nothing. Every application he'd sent remained unanswered. The mysterious text from 2 weeks ago felt like a cruel joke. Stay ready. Good things are coming. Nothing good had come. Just rejection, worry, and the suffocating feeling of failure. Later that night, long after Sarah had gone to bed, Marcus heard his mom crying softly in the kitchen. He found her at the table, a mountain of bills spread out before her. Late notices, the rent check, and Sarah's prescription, which now had a bright red refill denied sticker on it due to an insurance issue. I'm sorry, he said, his voice thick with shame. This is all my fault. If I hadn't lost that job. His mom wiped her eyes quickly, her composure a force of will. No, baby, don't you dare say that. Sometimes doing the right thing comes at a cost. Your father taught me that. She rarely spoke of his dad, a firefighter who had died saving a family from a burning building when Marcus was just 7. Another man who had broken protocol to help someone in need. I just feel so useless, Marcus admitted, sinking into the chair opposite her. Everyone knows my face, but no one will hire me. And now, Sarah's medicine. We will figure it out, his mom said, her voice trembling slightly. We always do. Lying in bed later, Marcus pulled out his phone and did something he'd been avoiding. He rewatched the video of that night. He saw himself run to the bench, saw Jordan wave him through. But this time, watching on a bigger screen, he noticed something new. Just before he handed over the drink, the camera had caught a close-up of Jordan's face. The look in his eyes, Marcus hadn't imagined it. It was a look of genuine distress. The mysterious text message felt heavier now, more significant. Someone else had noticed, too. His phone buzzed, making him jump. An unknown number. Marcus Thompson, this is the Chicago Bulls Human Resources Department. We have been trying to reach you regarding an important matter. Please come to the team facility tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bring identification. Marcus stared at the message, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Was this another prank? A reporter's trick? A loud, wheezing cough from Sarah's room shattered his thoughts. He found her sitting up in bed, struggling with her empty inhaler. It's all gone, she gasped, her eyes wide with panic. Marcus helped her with the breathing exercises the doctor had taught them, his voice calm and steady while his mind screamed. They needed a new inhaler. They needed money. They needed a miracle. The message from the Bulls glowed on his phone. Was it another disappointment, or was it the change his mysterious texter had promised? I'll figure something out, he told Sarah, as she finally drifted back to sleep. I promise. Outside, the lights of Chicago twinkled against the dark sky, and somewhere in that sleeping city, the people who knew the truth about that time out were finally ready to talk. Marcus had no idea that tomorrow's meeting would unlock a secret bigger than basketball, bigger than broken rules, bigger than anything he could possibly imagine. The real miracle was already in motion. Marcus barely slept. The message from the Bulls replayed in his mind, a loop of hope and fear. When his mom saw his pale, drawn face in the morning, she immediately called the hospital. I'm taking a personal day, she told her supervisor, her voice firm. It's a family emergency. Mom, no, Marcus protested. You need those hours. And you're not going to that meeting alone, she said, her expression unyielding. She softened, placing a hand on his cheek. Besides, I have a good feeling about this one. Sometimes, life's biggest blessings come disguised as setbacks. Sarah wanted to come too, but her wheezing was worse this morning. Mrs. Rodriguez from next door, a kind woman with a warm smile, agreed to watch her, sharing a worried look with his mom when she saw Sarah's empty inhaler. The bus ride to the Bulls' practice facility in Deerfield felt like a journey to another planet. Marcus wore his best Clothesa button-up shirt that had belonged to his father, ironed to a crisp perfection. His mom held his hand, her grip firm and reassuring, a silent promise that they were in this together. The Advocate Center was an imposing structure of glass and steel gleaming in the morning sun. A security guard at the front desk checked their IDs, his gaze lingering on Marcus for a beat too long. "Thompson party is here," he said into a phone. A woman in a sharp business suit led them down long, pristine hallways. The walls were a museum of Bulls history, lined with framed photos of legendary players. Marcus felt the weight of their gazes as he walked past. "Please wait in here," the woman said, showing them into a conference room with a panoramic view of the practice courts. "Can I get you some water?" They both nodded, their throats too dry to speak. Through the glass walls, Marcus could see people in suits hurrying past, talking in low, urgent tones. One man stopped, peered into the room, and then rushed away, whispering into his phone. "Whatever happens," his mom squeezed his hand, "I'm proud of you. Remember that." The door opened. A man in an expensive suit entered, followed by a woman carrying a laptop. "Marcus Thompson? I'm David Chen, the Bulls' head of human resources. This is Lisa Martinez, our legal counsel." Marcus's heart sank. Legal counsel? Were they going to sue him? "Thank you for coming," Mr. Chen said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "We've been trying to reach you." The mysterious text, Marcus realized. They were testing the waters. "First," Miss Martinez said, opening her laptop, "we need you to sign this non-disclosure agreement. What we are about to discuss cannot leave this room." "My son is a minor," his mom said, her voice steady and strong. "I will need to review any and all documents before he signs anything." "Of course," Mr. Chen said. "We expected nothing less." While his mom and Ms. Martinez went over the legal document, Mr. Chen turned to Marcus. "That was quite a thing you did during the timeout," he said, his voice neutral. "Not many people would have noticed what you did." Marcus swallowed hard. Is Michael okay? I heard about what happened at practice yesterday." "You've been paying attention," Mr. Chen nodded. "Good. That's part of why you're here." His mom finished reading and signed the papers. Marcus signed where she pointed, his hand trembling. "Now then." Mr. Chen leaned forward, his demeanor shifting from corporate formality to intense focus. "Tell me, Marcus, exactly what did you see that made you choose that specific drink?" Marcus glanced at his mom, who gave him an encouraging nod. "His hands," he began, his voice barely a whisper. They were shaking. Not like he was tired or nervous. It was a different kind of shaking. I'd seen it once before, at the hospital with my mom. And his eyes, they weren't focusing right. "And you knew which drink to bring?" "The special drinks in the back fridge," Marcus explained. "They're labeled with codes. I memorized what each one was for during my training, even though Mr. Peterson said we'd never handle them. The blue one with the silver cap, it's not just for energy, is it?" Mr. Chen and Miss Martinez exchanged a significant look. "No," Mr. Chen said finally. "It's not." "And the fact that you knew that, and that you acted on it, well, that's why we're here." He slid a thick envelope across the polished table. "We'd like to make you an offer, Marcus. One that could change everything." Marcus reached for the envelope, his heart pounding. But before his fingers could touch it, the conference room door burst open. "Sorry I'm late," a familiar, iconic voice said. "Traffic was a nightmare." Marcus turned. His world stopped. Standing in the doorway, dressed in Bulls warm-up gear, was Michael Jordan. "Hey, kid," Jordan smiled, walking towards him. "We need to talk." Marcus couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't think. Michael Jordan, real Michael Jordan, was walking toward him, his hand extended. "Breathe, kid," Jordan chuckled, sitting down next to him. "You look like you're about to pass out." Marcus looked at his mom for help, but she seemed just as starstruck, her hand covering her mouth. First, Jordan turned serious. "I want to apologize," he said, his famous intensity focused entirely on Marcus, "for not speaking up sooner. There were medical privacy issues we had to navigate, but letting you take the fall for helping me? That wasn't right." Mr. Chen cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should explain from the beginning." Jordan nodded. "You see, Marcus, I have a condition. Not many people know about it, We keep it private for a lot of reasons, mostly to keep opponents from thinking they have an edge. Sometimes, my blood sugar can drop suddenly during intense physical exertion. That's what was happening during the timeout. Marcus finished, finding his voice. The drink, the blue one with the silver cap, it has a rapid glucose solution in it. Smart kid, Jordan smiled, a genuine, appreciative smile. Most people wouldn't have seen anything wrong. Hell, some of my own teammates didn't catch it, but you did. And you knew exactly what to do. His mom squeezed his hand under the table, her own trembling slightly. I've been trying to get to you since that night, Jordan continued. But with the media storm and the reporters, we had to wait. Then yesterday, at practice, he paused. The collapse, Marcus remembered. Almost a collapse, Jordan corrected. But this time, we didn't have a Marcus Thompson on the sidelines. That's when I told the team we couldn't wait another day. We had to make this right. Ms. Martinez opened a new folder. We'd like to offer Marcus a position within the Chicago Bulls organization. His mom sat up straighter. What kind of position? A new one, Mr. Chen said. We're creating a junior sports medicine internship program. It would include full training, mentorship from our head medical staff, and, he glanced at Jordan, a full college scholarship to study sports medicine upon your high school graduation. If you wanted, of course, Jordan finished. Marcus's head was spinning. This couldn't be real. There's more, Jordan said, pulling out his phone. I made a few calls. Your sister, Sarah? Her asthma medication is being taken care of. My foundation helps kids with medical needs. She's covered. For good. His mom's quick, sharp intake of breath was the only sound in the room. Why? Marcus finally managed to ask. Why are you doing all of this for me? Jordan's expression softened. Because you remind me of someone, he said. Me. When I was young, before all this, he gestured around the state-of-the-art facility. A lot of people helped me when they didn't have to. People who saw something in me and took a risk. This is my chance to pay that forward. But Mr. Peterson, Marcus started, is the one who recommended you for this position? Mr. Chen said with a smile. What? Marcus was floored. He came to us right after that night, Ms. Martinez explained. He said he had to fire you for breaking protocol, but that we needed to watch you. He said you had the right instincts, that you cared more about people than about rules. The real reason for those protocols, Marcus, Mr. Chen added, isn't about celebrities. It's about medical privacy. We couldn't have the whole world knowing why that drink was so important. But you figured it out all on your own. Jordan leaned forward. So, what do you say, kid? Ready to turn one moment of kindness into a career? Marcus looked at his mom. Tears of joy were shining in her eyes as she smiled, a radiant, beautiful smile that erased all the worry and exhaustion of the past few weeks. Before you answer, Ms. Martinez said, you should know this is a serious commitment. You'll train after school, on weekends. You'll learn about sports science, emergency response, player health management. It's not just about getting to hang around NBA players. Good, Marcus said, his voice firm and clear for the first time. I want to learn everything. Jordan grinned, the famous competitive fire lighting up his eyes. That's what I was hoping you'd say. He stood up. Come on, I'll give you a tour. Your mom, too. I hear she's a nurse. Our medical team would love to pick her brain. As they walked through the facility, past the weight rooms and hydrotherapy pools that would become his new classroom, Marcus felt like he was walking on air. Sarah would get her medicine. His mom wouldn't have to work double shifts. And he would get to learn how to really help people. One more thing, Jordan said as they reached the edge of the main court. He pulled out his phone and played a video. It was the security camera footage from that night. It showed Marcus at his concession stand, long before the timeout. In the background, Jordan was already showing subtle signs of distress, signs only someone with an intuitive understanding of the human body would notice. The camera zoomed in on Marcus's face, showing the exact moment his brow furrowed in concern, the moment he started watching, the moment he knew. You didn't just react in the timeout, kid, Jordan said, his voice filled with a new level of respect. You were paying attention. You were thinking. You were planning. That's what we need. People who care enough to act, even when it might cost them everything. Marcus stared out at the huge, empty arena. 2 weeks ago, he had stood in this very building and thought his dream was over. Now, he realized, it was just beginning. But he had no idea that the biggest test of his new role was just around the corner. A test that would challenge everything he was about to learn and prove, once and for all, whether he had what it took to be part of Michael Jordan's team. The next week was an immersion in a world Marcus had only dreamed of. He spent his afternoons shadowing the Bulls medical team, learning from the best in the business. They taught him about athlete nutrition, the science behind hydration, emergency response protocols, and how to read the subtle language of a player's body. Every day was a fire hose of new information, new responsibilities, and new opportunities to prove he belonged. The day after the meeting, a full year's supply of Sarah's advanced asthma medication arrived at their apartment, along with a state-of-the-art nebulizer. His mom cried as she unpacked it, tears of pure, unadulterated relief. Michael Jordan was a man of his word. But the transition wasn't seamless. Some of the other arena staff whispered as Marcus walked by in his new official Bulls polo shirt. "That's the drink kid," they'd mutter. Got fired and failed his way to the top. He tried to ignore them, focusing instead on absorbing every piece of knowledge he could. Dr. Evans, the head of sports medicine, became his primary mentor. She was a no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind, and she didn't coddle him. "Medicine isn't about blindly following rules, Marcus," she told him during one of their first sessions. "It's about understanding precisely why the rules exist, so you have the wisdom to know when breaking one might save a life." On Friday afternoon, Marcus was in the medical supply room, organizing the very drinks that had changed his life, when he overheard two trainers talking just outside the door. "Jordan's blood work was a little off this morning," one said quietly. "Doc wants extra monitoring during tomorrow's game against the Pistons." "Should we give the kid a heads up?" the other asked. "He's supposed to be shadowing the bench for the first time." "No. Let's see if he notices on his own. That's why he's here, isn't it?" Marcus's heart began to pound. Tomorrow would be his first game on the bench, not as a concession worker, but as part of the medical team. His first real test. He could barely sleep that night. His mom found him at the kitchen table at midnight, surrounded by the medical textbooks Dr. Evans had given him, his face illuminated by the glow of a highlighter. "Baby, you need to rest," she said, placing a steaming mug of her special chamomile tea in front of him. "You can't help anyone if you're running on empty." "I can't mess this up, Mom," Marcus said, his voice tight with anxiety. "This chance, it's everything. What if I miss something? What if I'm not good enough?" His mom sat down beside him, her hand covering his. "You know what I see when I look at you," she said softly. "I see your father's heart and my stubbornness." "That's a powerful combination," she smiled. "You got this job because you noticed what a room full of experts missed. Trust those instincts, Marcus. They're your superpower." The next day, Marcus arrived at the United Center 3 hours early. He checked and double-checked every medical kit, ensuring every supply was in its proper place. Dr. Evans watched him with a small, approving nod. "Ready for your first game on this side of the court?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," Marcus said, trying to sound more confident than the frantic butterflies in his stomach would allow. The game against the Detroit Pistons, another classic, brutal rivalry, started at a furious pace. Marcus sat on the bench between Dr. Evans and the team trainers, his eyes scanning the court, watching everything. He paid special attention to Jordan, noting his every movement, every grimace, every sign of fatigue. But halfway through the second quarter, something else caught his eye. It wasn't Jordan. It was Dennis Rodman. The Bulls' eccentric star forward was moving differently, subtly favoring his left leg after grabbing a rebound. He touched his side when he thought the cameras weren't on him. Marcus glanced at Dr. Evans, but she was reviewing Jordan's latest hydration levels on a tablet. The trainers were focused on other players. No one else seemed to notice. Should I say something? What if I'm wrong? The taunts of "drink kid" echoed in his head. Then he remembered his mother's words. Trust those instincts. Dr. Evans, he said, his voice quiet but firm. I think Rodman might be cramping in his right oblique. He's favoring his left side on landings, and his breathing pattern changed after that last possession. The doctor looked up sharply. Her eyes followed Rodman for a full 30 seconds, then she grabbed her radio. Get Dennis out on the next dead ball, she said into it. Check his right side for cramping. During the next timeout, the trainers confirmed it. Good catch, Marcus. Dr. Evans said, giving him a nod of approval. Another quarter and that could have turned into a serious muscle strain. A wave of relief washed over Marcus. He had been right. He had helped. But the real test was yet to come. As the fourth quarter began, with the Bulls clinging to a narrow lead, Marcus noticed it. Jordan's latest readings were normal. His movements were still fluid and powerful. But Marcus saw something in his eyes. It was the same look, the one from that first night, the one only he seemed to be able to see. No one else reacted. Even Dr. Evans was focused on the game's intensity. Marcus had less than 15 seconds to make a choice. Question the greatest player in the world during the most crucial part of the game, potentially embarrassing himself and disrupting the team's focus, or stay quiet and risk something far, far worse. This time, he didn't hesitate. Code Blue, he said, his voice clear and steady, using the signal they had trained him to use for a potential blood sugar emergency. Everything happened in a flash. Dr. Evans sprang into action. The trainers moved with the practiced speed of a pit crew. And Marcus found himself, for the second time in his young life, face to face with Michael Jordan during a critical timeout, holding a familiar blue drink with a silver cap. But this time was different. This time, he wasn't breaking the rules. He was following his training. This time, he wasn't just a kid with a hunch. He was a trusted member of the team. Jordan took the drink without question. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Marcus saw something he would never forget. Pure, unadulterated respect. Not just from Jordan, but from Dr. Evans, from the trainers, from every player on the bench who had witnessed the quiet, efficient intervention. He had passed his test. More than that, he had found his calling. This was never just about basketball. It was about seeing people. It was about being there when they needed help, about noticing the things that everyone else missed. As the game continued, Marcus sat a little taller on the bench. The whispers behind his back had finally stopped. He wasn't the drink kid anymore. He was Marcus. And he was exactly where he was meant to be. Or so he thought. Because in the final, frantic minutes of the game, something would happen that would reveal the full, staggering truth about that first night. A truth that would change not just his life, but the landscape of the entire NBA. With just under 2 minutes left in the game, the Bulls were up by 3. The United Center was a vortex of sound, the crowd on its feet, the noise, a physical force. But Marcus wasn't watching the scoreboard. His eyes were locked on the court, scanning, observing, a habit now ingrained in his very being. That's when he saw it. Not with a Bulls player this time. It was the Pistons' star point guard. After a hard drive to the basket, he stumbled slightly. He shook his hands, a subtle tremor. And his eyes, they had the same vacant, unfocused look, the exact same symptoms he'd spotted in Jordan 2 weeks ago. Dr. Evans was already moving. Marcus, with me, she commanded. They rushed to the end of the bench, alerting the Pistons' medical staff. And that's when it all clicked into place. The opposing team's doctor, after a quick assessment, pulled out a familiar-looking blue bottle with a silver cap, the exact same kind Marcus had brought to Jordan. As they treated their player, Marcus overheard the Pistons' doctor talking to Dr. Evans in low, urgent tones. It's happening more and more, the doctor said, his voice strained. 3 players this month alone. The league office needs to know. Know what? Marcus asked before he could stop himself. The 2 doctors exchanged a look. Then Dr. Evans nodded. He's part of this now. He deserves to know. They pulled Marcus aside as the game resumed. What they told him made his world tilt on its axis. It wasn't just Michael Jordan. Across the entire NBA, an increasing number of players were experiencing these sudden, unexplained blood sugar crashes during games. The league had been treating each case as an isolated incident, keeping it quiet to avoid a panic, but a terrifying pattern was emerging. Remember those new league-approved energy supplements that came out last season? Dr. Evans asked. We're finding that for a certain percentage of athletes, they can have a severe adverse reaction with their natural blood sugar levels. It's unpredictable. We don't know who will be affected or when. That's why the blue drinks are so important, Marcus realized aloud. They're not just for emergencies. They're a counteragent. Exactly, the Pistons doctor nodded. But we can't watch every player every second of the game. We need more people with your kind of instincts, Marcus. People who can spot the signs before they become full-blown emergencies. The final buzzer sounded. The Bulls won by 5, but Marcus barely registered it. His mind was reeling with the implications of what he had just learned. After the game, Jordan called him into a private meeting in the executive offices. Mr. Chen and Dr. Evans were there, along with several serious-looking men and women Marcus didn't recognize. They were executives from the NBA league office. Tell them what you told me, Jordan said, gesturing for Marcus to speak. About the signs you noticed, about how you knew something was wrong. So, Marcus explained. He described the subtle changes in a player's movements, the almost imperceptible shift in their eyes, the tiny tells that most people would dismiss as simple fatigue. The executives took copious notes, their expressions grim. This is bigger than just one team now, Jordan said when Marcus had finished. The league is creating a new player safety initiative. Every team will have a designated observer on the bench, someone trained specifically to watch for these symptoms, and they want you to help design the training program. Marcus stared at them, speechless. Me? But I'm just a kid. You're the kid who spotted a league-wide problem that 100 trained professionals missed, Dr. Evans said with a proud smile. You're the one who cared enough to act even when it cost you your job. That's exactly who we need. Mr. Chen slid a new contract across the table. This goes beyond your Bulls internship, Marcus. The NBA would like to hire you as a consultant for the new safety program. You'll help write the training materials, sharing your unique perspective on what to look for. Marcus stared at the contract, his hands trembling as he read the words. There's more, Jordan added. Remember how I said someone helped me when I was young? This is my chance to pay it forward, on a bigger scale. My foundation isn't just covering Sarah's medicine anymore. We're creating a full scholarship program, the Thompson Grant, for young people from underprivileged backgrounds who want to pursue careers in sports medicine. And you, Marcus, are going to help us choose the recipients. Tears filled Marcus's eyes. He thought about that night 2 weeks ago, how scared and alone he had felt. He thought about all the other kids out there who might have the same instincts he did, who just needed a chance. The truth is, Marcus, Dr. Evans said softly, you didn't just help one player that night. You helped us uncover a systemic problem that could have ended careers or worse. Your instincts and your courage to act on them are going to help protect players across the entire league for years to come. So, what do you say, kid? Jordan held out a pen. Ready to change the game? Marcus looked at the contract. He thought about what his mom always said, about life's biggest blessings coming disguised as setbacks. She had been right all along. He took the pen and signed his name. Later that night, Marcus sat in their small kitchen, telling his mom and a wide-eyed Sarah everything. The NBA program, the scholarship foundation, all of it. I always knew you were special, his mom said, hugging him so tightly he could barely breathe. Just like your father, seeing what needs to be done and doing it, no matter the cost. My brother's going to be famous, Sarah cheered, her breathing easy and clear. Marcus laughed, a real, genuine laugh. Not famous, Squirt, just doing what's right. But as he looked around their small kitchen, he realized how much had changed. From losing his job to helping create a league-wide safety program, from worrying about bills to helping give away scholarships. All because he noticed something in Michael Jordan's eyes. All because he chose to help. Sometimes, the biggest moments in life don't look big when they're happening. Sometimes, they look like a 16-year-old kid in a red and black uniform, running across a basketball court with a drink in his hand, not knowing he's about to change the world. And sometimes, the real victory isn't measured in points on a scoreboard, but in the lives you touch along the way. That was the lesson Marcus Thompson had learned. And it was the lesson he was about to teach the world.